Hi everybody, happy Tuesday and welcome to another episode of this and the ongoing horror struggles of me and this effing clicker. So, this week, I think last week I mentioned this week we would be doing like a monster mash kind of episode. So what I want to do today is I want to talk about movies that involve multiple monsters, and I guess what I'm really trying to make a list of are movies that involve multiple monsters that interact with each other, and the storyline of the movie minimally involves humans. It's mostly about the monsters and their interactions with each other. Now, not everything in this list is necessarily going to meet that criteria, but that's what I had in mind when I made this list. I'm a huge movie monster fan, so damn it, I have about 15, maybe 16, 17 movies here. And I know I'm missing a really obvious one. There are a couple that I left off of here because I hate them. I hate the movies. I don't want to put it on my list. If you want to put it on your list, start a YouTube channel, make your own. But there are a couple, and I'm not going to name them because I don't want to make anybody feel bad because they like it, but I don't like it. It's not on my list. So I think we get to start pretty early in movie history with this because once monster movies started really having a lot of traction, started gaining a lot of popularity, especially with Universal Studios, they started getting, are you kidding me? They started getting crazy sequels, so many sequels, and they were going to take these monsters and beat them to death with so many movies. So some of the sequels started actually kind of bringing the monsters together. The first on this list is 1943, Frankenstein meets the Wolfman. This is a Universal movie. It's pretty obvious what the movie's about. It's a meeting between two of the great Universal monsters, and surprise, surprise, they don't get along. Next, in 1943, this one is also 1943, but this is not a Universal movie. It's called Return of the Vampire. And what's great about this movie is it's Bela Lugosi playing the vampire, but they can't call him Dracula because this is not a Universal movie. They can't use the name Dracula. I can't remember what his name is, but in this one, he has a werewolf servant. It's actually kind of nice calling him a werewolf servant. He's a slave. He is not there of his own volition. He's not always happy to be there, and the vampire's mean to him. And the werewolf makeup is it's a trip. It just looks like they've glued dog hair to the sky. But it is a movie that is an interesting watch. I love these old movies, and this one was a good kind of, it wasn't trying to be campy, but it managed it anyway, that kind of thing. So in 1945, we get the movie House of Dracula. And this movie's interesting. First of all, they got John Carradine to play Dracula, which that's a choice, That's a choice. But the conceit of this movie is basically all our classical monsters by this point, they're kind of tired of being monsters. They want to live a normal life. So they go to this guy and they're like, hey, can you cure us? No spoilers. Also in 1945, we get House of Frankenstein. We got a lot of house ofs here. This movie, it's a guy who gets out of prison, and he's mad because he feels he was falsely imprisoned. He has a bone to pick with some people, and what he does is he uses our monsters to try to get his revenge, and it doesn't go well for him. Don't try to make the monsters do what they don't want to do. What do we have next? Okay, so I want to talk really briefly about Kaiju movies, because Kaiju movies are kind of famous for being monster versus monster. And in my opinion, the best ones are the ones that have very, very minimal human story. It's basically where the humans are off to the sides, spectating the fight between the big monsters. Those are my favorites. I couldn't pick one or two. It would be stupid because there's so many. And not even all of them feature Godzilla. There are a lot of sort of cheapo versions of kaiju monster fight movies that are all kinds of fun. It's not about the effects. It's about what are they going to use to beat the hell out of each other in this movie? Tons of fun. They're better when it is minimal human story. I also have to talk about King Kong movies. One of the great things about King Kong movies, again, we have too much human story in a lot of them because it is about taking an animal out of its natural habitat and putting it on exhibition and how that's wrong, right? Well, in all these movies, we always get scenes of Kong in his natural habitat and how he kind of, there's always like dinosaurs. And I don't honestly know if it was always called Skull Island. I could have looked that up. I didn't. I'm sorry. But in his natural habitat, there are always large creatures that he has to fight because he has to establish dominance where he is. He is the dominant, the alpha creature, right? And that's always something that's really great about those movies are the fight scenes with Kong and whatever other big thing they throw in there that time. So let's jump to 1957. Now I have to talk about this one because I truly think everybody should give this movie a try. If you don't make it all the way through the movie, I understand. This movie has a fandom for a reason, but there are a lot of people who are confused by that fandom for a reason. That movie is Plan 9 from Outer Space. And this movie, I don't have a lot of words. It's a mess. It is a mess. You have to admit it. Even the fans have to admit it. But I kind of love this movie. I've got a movie poster of it on my wall here in my office. I think this movie is a ton of fun. This is a movie where you want to read trivia on it before you watch it. It makes it make a little more sense. Not a lot, but a little more. I just think this is a movie everybody should try. If you can't do it, if you make it 15 minutes in and you're like, that's okay, I understand. Let's go to 1987 to Monster Squad. This is a movie, it's got a lot of human story to it, and the monsters are kind of like, they team up and they're teaming up to do evil deeds on, you know, the world, and it's a group of kids that have to stop it. That was a big thing in the 80s, was the group of kids stopping the supernatural forces. I do think that if this isn't a movie that you saw as a kid, you may not like it as an adult, if that makes any sense. It's a fun, silly movie. The effects are okay in it. I think the Wolfman looks weird. He's got a weird flat face. But Dracula's cool. You know, Dracula's a massive dick in this, as he should be. And of course, Wolfman's got nards. You can't get around that. It's a fun movie. If you watched it as a kid and liked it, you can revisit it and still get that same joy from it. If you didn't watch it as a kid, again, this is 1987. There was a very specific kind of movie starring kids going on at that time. If that's not your flavor, you may not like it. I think it's tons of fun. All right. So starting in 2003, we have to talk about the Underworld movies. There's like no human story going on in these movies, which is kind of interesting. I actually really like that about that. I don't love all the Underworld movies. I've actually kind of checked out on them. Like, they're still making them. The first one is not my favorite, but I do like it. Now, here's the thing. When these movies were coming out, guys were being so annoying about Kate Beckinsale and tight leather. I, for the longest time, thought I maybe didn't like these movies because I just shut up about Kate Beckinsale and tight leather. But I've rewatched them recently, and I was actually up late the other night thinking about it. I couldn't sleep, and I was thinking about it. She is an actress, by and large, who I find to be very underwhelming. She's beautiful. Congratulations, so are most actresses. She has a fantastic body. Congratulations, so do most actresses. I find her to lack presence or something, but her time as Celine, the vampire, the death dealer, she's really good in this part. This kind of severe, business-only kind of persona who has a bit of a temper, admittedly. I think she's really great in this part, and I've kind of come around where now I don't feel so bad when, you know, guys bitch at me because I'm excited to see Tom Hardy or Alexander Skarsgård in the movie. It's like years That's how long I had to spend listening to guys creaming themselves over Kate Beckinsale in tight leather. Now, the Underworld movies, God, they're actually really good. They have the perfect goth aesthetic where everybody's wearing black, everybody's really pale. Of course, vampires. And we have some werewolves, but it's mostly these kind of werewolf hybrids called Lycans. Everything happens at night. So we've got a lot of blue filters going on. We've got a lot of massive stone architecture going on. Visually amazing. I also just really like, they're good violent fight movies. They're good kind of, we start getting the Romeo and Juliet kind of thing going on. My favorite is Underworld Evolution. It was made in 2006. That's the one where Marcus rises, and he's kind of this agent of chaos because he has an end he's trying to meet. He wants to find his brother. Marcus is the original vampire, and his brother William is the original werewolf. And he wants to reunite with his brother and kind of rule the world, that kind of thing. I also really like the movie Rise of the Lycans in 2009. This movie kind of explains why Lucian kind of fucking hates Victor and why this whole fight between the vampires and the Lycans started. I think it's a totally good movie. These are movies, if they're on, I'm going to stop and watch them every time. Every time. I do have to say something, though. I think it's in the second movie. Kate Beckinsale's character finally hooks up with this Lycan hybrid guy that she meets in the first movie. It was love at first sight for her, although she's not a ushy-gushy kind of person, so she doesn't show it in that way, but they finally hook up, and this sex scene is so weird because, I mean, I enjoy a good sex scene, and, you know, Kate Beckinsale was here for it. By the second movie, she was, I don't know if they were married yet, but she was definitely in a relationship with the director. And this whole sex scene is just up close shots of her and the other actor kissing, and then just shots of her belly button. What the fuck are you doing? And it was like kind of overly long because it was like kissing, kissing, Kate's belly button, kissing, kissing, Kate's belly button. Okay, fine. Again, that's a choice. Whatever. But I like these movies. I will always sit and watch these movies. 2004, we get Alien versus Predator. This is another one. There's a little too much human story to it. I definitely wanted more of the monsters. Now, there could be the argument made that the alien monster, the xenomorphs, and the predator monsters, that's more sci-fi. No. Because I want to go back to their first movies, to Alien and Predator. These are monster movies. Yes, they're sci-fi in that, you know, Alien takes place way in the future, and in Predator we get sci-fi in the Predator's really advanced weaponry and armor and stuff like that. He can camouflage himself, but these are monster movies, and I'll tell you why. We have to wait for the monster reveal. We have to wait until damn near the end of the movie to finally see the whole monster. That is a thing, and you can have sci-fi horror. There will actually be a book that I'll talk about next week. Maybe I helped write. But where sci-fi horror is a thing, and I think Alien versus Predator, again, too much people, but we got the suspense, we got the gore, we got the horror of the monsters. It's a good movie. It's not great, but it is good. All right, so we have to take a total break and talk about Guillermo del Toro, because when it comes to monsters, when it comes to creature effects, nobody does it better. Nobody. So I want to talk about Hellboy in 2004. This is a fine movie. It's a good movie. We get a lot of creatures in it, a lot of creature effects. Not a whole lot of humans in this story. That's the point. There's something completely different going on, and it's all monsters, and it's all, these weird elder gods that are all tentacles, and they're floating around in space encased in crystal, and it's just fucking amazing visuals. And Hellboy 2, The Golden Army, which was made in 2008, this, in my very humble opinion, is the better movie. The story is better, the effects are better, the creature, whoa boy, we get a whole menagerie of creatures in this movie, and they're all so fucking cool. There's like no humans in this movie. There were more humans in the first one than the second one. The second one, it's all supernatural shit. and they're fighting with each other, and there's wars going on. It's a great movie. Also, Guillermo del Toro, I have to talk about this one. I deliberated a little bit, not so much because of the human story, but because it doesn't always look like the supernatural creatures interact with each other all that much, but they do a little bit, so I'm bringing it up because amazing creatures, and that's Pan's Labyrinth. This was made in 2006. This is a long movie. This is a heavy movie. If you haven't seen it, you really must. You really must. If for no other reason than the Pale Man. And you'll know him when you see him. This is a fantastic creature movie. This is a fantastic story. Again, dense, heavy. It's a lead ball of a movie, but in a good way because a lot goes on. What else we got here? Oh, let's go back to 2003 for just a minute because we got to talk about Freddy versus Jason. Again, too many people. This could have been a lot better if it was just them, but you got to bring it up because who doesn't love Freddy and Jason? I love Freddy and Jason. I love Jason a little more, and maybe there's someone watching this who's going to be mad at me for that. But it's a fun movie. It is a fun movie. It doesn't take itself too seriously. It totally embraces the cheese, and I like that. I respect that a lot. This list is going all over the place, and I'm really sorry, but one I have to bring up as kind of honorable mention. These last two are going to be kind of honorable mention pieces. 1953's Jason and the Argonauts. Now, this is a human story, but God, we got to bring this one up because Ray Harryhausen earned his paycheck with this. There's so much stop animation, with the giant guy who destroys their ships. We get a Hydra. Is this the one with the Cyclops? I think there's a Cyclops in this one, or am I thinking of the Sinbad movie? I don't know. There's just a lot of stuff in this. There's a lot of creatures, and we really get into those really cool mythological creatures in this. Jason and the Argonauts, 1953. Also, it can't be overstated how great those effects are. Yeah, it's claymation. Yeah, it's stop animation, but it's really good. There's a reason Harryhausen is a name. There's a reason. This shit looks amazing. All right, last honorable mention that I have to bring up, just because I'm going to talk about the books next week, is the HBO show True Blood. Full disclosure, I hated this show. I liked the first 3 seasons, even though I kept going, well, why did you change this? Why did you change this? Why did you change this character? What the fuck? The only good thing that came out of that show was Lafayette. Nelson Ellis, the actor, took this tiny character from the books and blew it the fuck up and made him the best character in the show. They involved too much humans in the show. The thing about the books that makes this whole thing fit is the character of Sookie Stackhouse. She lives in 2 worlds. She lives in the human world and she lives in the supernatural world. But she exists in both kind of as an observer and not necessarily as a member of. And if you've never read the books, it's a girl book. No, they're really good. And also Charlene Harris is fucking hilarious. And that's something that they missed in this show too. But there's a lot of creatures in this. They got them all. And they got them all wrong. But they're in there. And there's tons of nudity and sex and lack of story. And I swear to God, if I had to listen to Stephen Moyer say, I am vampire, one more time, my head was going to explode. I hated this show. But that'll be it for today. Look, I missed a big one. It's not Nightbreed. I missed a big one. So tell me, what are your favorite movies that meet this criteria where it's more about the creatures and the people and it's multiple creatures? See, I was going to put The Mist in here, that movie. Incredible creatures, but they don't really interact with each other, and they're also like, they're just walking around, and things only get violent if they run into people. Like, they're really just kind of there. They're horrifying by their existence mostly. I mean, yeah, things get violent and people get torn apart, but it didn't quite meet the criteria I was going for, even though that's an amazing movie. If you haven't seen it, fix that. So that'll be it for me this week. Tell me, what did I miss? I know I missed a big one and it's going to drive me crazy. What did I miss? I don't know. But that'll be it for me. Thank you for tuning in for these. We're growing a little bit here, you guys. Every week I get, maybe another 1 subscriber and people are talking about these. These are fun. You can message me and request that I do things. That's totally fine. That's totally allowed. And thank you for being here. All right, let's do battle with the clicker. See if we can get this to turn off. And that'll be it for me this week. Bye. Nope.